We all live in patterns. If you change your environment, you can change the outcome. This is episode 2, season 3, and I'm sitting down with Nate from LindaMar's. It's a different one. That's right. Changing the pattern. Let's do this thing. Alright, so here's the thing. We're going to talk a little bit about patterns. Now, for myself, I'm notorious for patterns. Good, bad, ugly, doesn't really matter. But one thing that I'm getting better at is recognizing these patterns before they become a bigger issue. Now, why are we talking about this? Well, because I really do believe that if you recognize these patterns before they become big problems in your life, you are then better able to move forward in a capacity to utilize these patterns and behavioral things for the good, not the bad. All right, so for instance, I like to use the example of my hair. Check it out. Yep. I reinvent myself physically. Anytime I'm undergoing changes in life, I tend to do that. I recognize this and then I reflect it. How are we doing on time? Got 10 seconds. I reflect upon what changes are coming up, what changes have happened, and moving forward, recognize that this haircut is more than just a mohawk, or mohawk, if you will. It is much, much more. It's me reinventing myself for the greater good of change. Now, you can do this too. And, I do believe that if you do change your environment, you can expect to change the outcome.
Suffocating
right, you just heard The Tempest. That is a track off of a new favorite group's latest album. Is that right, Nate?
We actually released 2 singles after our 4-track EP, so they're just singles right now.
Okay, cool, man. Well, that's Nate De La Hoya. There we go. I got it right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Yes, perfect. Poor white Canadian kid up here, right? I'm trying to get these like Spanish-looking names all right. So Nate De La Hoya of the group LindaMar's, out of San Francisco, and man, these guys, I can't wait to dig in on this one. This is going to be a doozy of an interview here today, my man. I'm very excited for this. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, man? Thank you for having me.
Hey, no, not a problem, my man. I know we've been playing a little bit of tag here and trying to line this up for almost a month now, I think. So it's been a long time coming, which makes it just that much more perfect. So I'm doing well. I mean, it's a little bit. I got to assume it's a little bit colder. I know you get that sea breeze coming into San Fran over the bay, but it's a little bit colder up here, I think. We're just starting to get into that like crisp fall meets winter kind of feeling up here in Calgary. So I don't know if you've ever been north of the border, but it can get pretty ballsy cold. So we're doing pretty good.
Visit Canada. I've loved the snow even as a kid, so I know you guys actually get seasons. In California, we just skip all the bad ones.
Yeah.
So it's usually the same temperature year round, but we do get Indian summers, so it has been really hot lately. That's going to cool off as soon as like November, December kicks in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do remember that. I did a bit of my training actually down there. I got my holistic lifestyle coach down in San Francisco and then spent a little bit of time down in Oakland. I don't know if you're a ball guy, but I was intending on going to a Giants game. Missed the game because anything coming in from Calgary, they got to wait for fog, right? And you've always got fog. So we were waiting here. I missed the game, but I get to my hostel that night, and they're like, well, why don't you just go across the bay, go catch an A's game? I was like, oh, shit, okay. Yeah, I didn't even know that. Okay, cool. Roughest town I've ever been in my entire life. I go in wearing a Giants cap. A guy looks at me, he goes, you ain't from here, eh? And I was like, what's up? He's like, I won't take that cap off your head. I was like, oh shit. So, rough town, but
even though Oakland and San Francisco are so close to each other, the rivalry is insane. We have the 49ers against the Raiders, the Giants versus the A's. We have a lot of really great sports teams that just happen to be right next to each other.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then I guess you guys can all agree that Golden State, though, like that's who's the rival out there?
For basketball,
right now, yeah.
Like people that are really fighting against the Warriors or the Cavaliers constantly.
Okay.
It's going to be another repeat season.
Yeah.
The same thing because that's the 2 biggest teams right now. I don't even know sports. And I know that those 2 teams are just dominating everything. So.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Hey, it's hard to avoid that. Even if you don't know sports, it's hard to avoid the rivalries, I'm sure, right? So we got a little bit of it up here.
I know Canadians absolutely love hockey, and we have the San Jose Sharks, so I believe are doing really, really good this year.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, at least.
Yeah. San Jose, I mean, you got the Kings down there, too. Cali's done really well. And now, with the addition with the Vegas team, it makes things interesting on the Pacific side there. So it's going to be kind of cool next few years for hockey, for sure. So... But well, let's get back into it. Let's dive in. Let's talk about your group. Now you are, I'm gonna say, lead vocals. Now describe what you do in the group, because for the folks up here, we usually do a lot of like indie projects. We do a little hip hop. We do a little rock and roll roots and stuff. You guys come with a totally different brand. So tell me a little bit about LindaMar's.
So we're a metalcore band based out of San Francisco Bay Area. What we strive to do is bring the heavy aspects of metal, but then also catching us with catchy choruses and really melodic breakdowns and riffs. So that way you have such a blend of pop and heavy. I came from a background of really, really heavy music, and when I formed the band 3 years ago, the other singer, the one with the clean vocals, wanted to do clean vocals. I wanted to do heavy vocals, and we just blended it into the sound that a lot of people give us the same sort of answer when they listen to our music. They say, this isn't really my thing, but I started listening to it. It was really catchy. It's really good. Yeah. So we definitely tapped into like a broader audience. What makes our genre of metalcore, I guess, is just the singing. Because in every song, we definitely try to do something where it's like a catchy breakdown or some parts where there's clean vocals in it. and I'm the one screaming my head off. All the heavy vocals are all me.
Oh yeah. No, it's actually, it's really, really super cool because I'm one of those guys that, like you said, describes the group the same way, because it's totally not my thing. But I found, I hate drawing comparisons, but I found the first time I listened to a group up here out of Canada, Alexis on Fire, I found the exact same kind of thing. I was like, whoa, what's the screaming all about? I can really dig Dallas Green. I can really get into that, because that's something I was more like, listening to, right? I was listening to a lot more indie rock, a lot more roots, but then the blend came in and it really brought back, like, I'm a drummer, so it brought back like the harder rock stuff that I was really playing and just kicking ass on drums. So it blended it really nice. And I listened to your guys' stuff and I was like, oh man, it brought me back to like that nostalgia of like, yeah, I don't even know. Yeah. It was like my later teens, like I'm 30 now, but like we're talking like maybe 10, 15 years ago, and you had so much angst and you just like wanted to beat the shit out of your drums. Like listening to like guys like Limp Bizkit, guilty pleasure. But the actual melodic chemical makeup of the way they wrote their songs was something that was really catchy and hooky. And I like how you described that too, because it is like I love the tunes, and even that first track, Tempest, like I put that thing on repeat, and I mean it takes a little bit to get into the heavy stuff, but then it complements itself so nicely with all blends, and I think you do get a really good broad audience, and that's definitely shown by your guys' YouTube and all the comments, all the likes, and the following you guys have been doing. So you mentioned it, 3 years in the running now, right?
Yeah, so we started on January 1st of 2015, so this January is going to be our 3 years. We started the band after he was my drummer at the time in the band previously. It disbanded. He came up to me and said, hey, I really like being in a band with you. I think you and I have what it takes to push a music project forward, and we just went all out into it. Immediately started recording tracks and getting an EP out, getting artwork out, and then really going heavy into social media. Studying marketing and business. Social media was just where we had a really good strong leg, and where we amassed somewhat of a following, and I'm really, really grateful for that, because we do have a lot of people who do come out to our shows, show us a lot of love on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and it's really, really cool to go to live events and end up seeing people who recognize me from like our songs, and that blows my mind.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's cool how interconnected it has become with that the mass media, the internet connection, where you've got people, and I'm sure you guys will see it even through like your followings through, I'm not sure, like Bandcamps and SoundClouds and all the tags, all the geotagging, where you can see where people are actually listening, right? And as an artist myself too, I know that's super influential for the way that you can build a tour, right? Because you know where people are listening to, you're actually going to have a draw. So we'll get into that a little bit too. I know that's in the books for you guys. So what was there, like a certain point for you guys where it was like, wow, this could be something, this particular project? I mean, sounds like you've been playing in different groups for a while, but this particular project, was there like an aha moment? Like you're like, yeah, this is it. This is something.
You know what? There was never an aha moment. It was kind of, it sounds corny, but destined from the beginning to succeed, because we had this mentality of like, we did really good in these past bands. We're going to take everything we did with these guys and just do it to this band 10 times. And we just, if you ever listen to a guy named Grant Cardone, just 10xing it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we did with the band, is just a complete just 10x. We spammed everything we could on every social media platform. We played as many shows as possible. Even when we had no members, we still showed up with a laptop and an aux cord, hit play, and just screamed over the instrumentals.
Oh, yeah.
And we did what we want. Like, anything to get there is what we did.
Right.
And we just had this, I knew in my heart that if I just kept pushing forward, it was going to get to somewhere.
Right.
And I've never lost that little fire of like, maybe this isn't meant for me, or maybe this isn't going to succeed. My whole idea was, if I do not stop, neither will this.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's a great mindset. And I think that's an approach that not having that self-confidence and never an ounce of doubt that really does make a difference, right? You can be the master of your own destiny, and that's really great to hear. And I'm sure younger groups, greener groups need to hear that for sure, because I'm a big believer in that myself too. And any project I've ever been in, I had that same mentality, and it's tough to find a group where you get every member on that same page, right? And that's why we see so many turnover, right?
Oh man, you have no idea. We've been through multiple guitarists, drummers, bassists, people who could play only one song, people who could play all the songs but never would show up. We had people fighting, egos.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing now that right now I'm working with a team of people who are absolutely phenomenal, and I feel like these guys are exactly who I need by my side compared to past members who are all fantastic if you watch this podcast.
Yeah.
But I believe that there was things that really prevented us from moving forward, and the guys that I'm working with now are tremendous.
Right. A lot of it comes down to that. It's not. It's a business decision at the end of the day. You're still running a business. Nothing should be really taken personally. You've just got different players for different reasons, right? Like sometimes guys I've been in a group, like great players, great drive, just not their jam to take it to that next level. So totally get that, man. Do you mind running me through the current lineup right now, just for the folks at home and people that are like, who are you? Who are you guys?
Sure. So I consider myself the lead vocals. I do all the screaming. Our singer currently is this guy named Jake Street. He has his own project called Backyard Atlantic, which he was doing acoustic pop punk music. Super enthusiastic. Got him on the team a couple months ago. And then we have our guitarist Justine Soledad, who's also been really helpful with social media marketing. She's currently editing one of our music videos.
Like it.
So super handy, super dedicated. We have our bassist Michael, extremely talented, really picked up all the songs incredibly fast and in the studio. He's even adding little things into the recordings that are just making the sound really come alive. And then we have our drummer, Ryan. Ryan was the last addition of the band. Blended with us super, super well. We were looking for the drummer for the longest time. We had a bunch of fill-ins, and finally we landed with Ryan. He's an absolute pleasure to hang around. Super fun, super energetic, and is getting all the songs down amazingly. And then today we actually had a guy come in to play guitar for us as a second guitar.
Oh, wow.
His name is Zach. I see potential in him, so hopefully in the future he's also included on the roster. But I think our live sound as it is now with Jake, Justine, Mike, Ryan, and hopefully Zach, we sound phenomenal live.
That's great.
We've been practicing nonstop, and the sound has grown so much from where we were a few months ago, a year ago.
Yeah.
It's exactly where I want it to be right now.
That's awesome, man. Well, it sounds like it's your baby, man, and that's so important to have exactly what you need and be able to constantly kind of cultivate that and grow, right? And that's fantastic, man. That's so good. That's so great. Now, like, what did you think when you first got into, like, let's start with like when you first started playing music, like when you first started doing these projects, what did it mean to be like, that's the band, and how has that changed now that you've been doing it?
When I started first doing music, I was probably in high school. I picked up the guitar and really just wanted to go that route. I was always super self-conscious about my vocals, and it wasn't until way later that I got somebody in my old band, when I wasn't even in the band, was like, you should try out for a band and do vocals. They needed a fill-in one day. I filled it, and then I started playing and touring with them. And from then on, it was like, okay, that's what I sound like. Let's move forward. It's interesting. The more time I spend pursuing this dream, the realer it gets. There's this extreme fantasy of the rock star lifestyle where it's these tour buses with 100 females in them and partying excessively and playing shows to 1,000 plus member crowds, and that does exist.
Yeah.
But on the grind up, it is hard. It's like sandpaper for the soul.
I love it.
If you want to really see what like tough is, it's really pushing music that's no one's ever heard of and getting a bunch of people to get on board with your idea. I'm talking showing up to events and handing out burned CDs that we spent the entire night making and writing on with Sharpie.
Yeah.
Printing
there.
shirts and getting anybody to buy the shirt at all these events. And man, the hustle it took is insane. And I've toured before, and it's a great experience.
Yeah.
It's not the funnest thing.
No.
A van full of stinky dudes gets really annoying after 3 days.
Yeah, no doubt. That's awesome that you bring that up, because we'll get into that after the first track here I want to get into. But you hit a couple key points, like the tour lifestyle, and that's again how we got in touch. Really, is that I'm looking for groups that can speak to that, and that's why I'm so interested in your project, because A, it's totally out of my wheelhouse. B, I want to know from a self-indulgent kind of like, hey, how is it in the metalcore scene? How is it? Is it a harder lifestyle? Is it the same kind of thing we're dealing with up here? How's the tour effect? Like, do you have a ton of shows? Like, so you hit a nail on the head with a few of those things. So by the sounds of things, it's universally rough.
It's universally exhausting. And I'm super happy for my team that I'm with right now, because our singer Jake has helped book this tour for the last 3 months, has been nonstop calling venues, other bands, putting on the show completely, making sure that we have dates, and we've definitely hit a bunch of potholes in the road. We had one venue is going to shut down in a week, and our tour's in 3, so they were like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to just shut down the venue. Good luck finding another one.
Oh wow.
And it's it's getting so close to crunch time.
Yes.
We've definitely hit blocks in the road, but without these dudes, I don't really think we would be as successful as because a lot of it's DIY, do it yourself, up until you have enough funds to hire a booker, a manager, somebody to route your tour, somebody to do your laminates, and just basically the whole 9 yards. But when funding isn't there, or when people that you try to rely on don't really come through the way you expected them to, you have to do it all yourself. And man, it is a learning experience.
Oh yeah. No, it's nothing changed up here, man. You're speaking all the same language, and it's hard to communicate that. And that's the whole purpose of my I guess my influence in the industry is to help alleviate some of those lifestyle demands. So we'll get into that after the first track. I definitely want to talk about another song though. You mentioned playing Unclear here. Now, can you give me a little background on that track? Because I always find it really, really interesting myself. And I know my listeners, my audience really like this too, the background on a story, who does the writing, how does the whole song take shape, specifically with Unclear. How did that song come to be?
Unclear was, when we first got it, was a really rough draft and a really bouncy beat that we really liked. Had a really rough pre-po demo of it. When we went to the producer, we worked so far with 4 producers, and the one we went to for Tempest and Unclear was this guy named Cameron Mizell out in Chango Studios from Arizona. And he's worked with people like Sleeping with Sirens, Memphis Mayfire, and all these amazing bands in our genre. And when we brought it to him, it was basically just mold, not mold, but just hot clay, unformed clay. He was the one that was kind of helping us mold it into what it is. I feel like even now I'm extremely unexperienced when it comes to music, and I never want to consider myself a master ever, because I can always learn from somebody. This guy sat with us and showed us how to make it what it is. As for the lyrics and writing, I write all my lyrics. I get some help from influences, or some people come and sit down and give me a line or two, but I try to centralize it around a single theme or a feeling or an emotion, and I try to carry that feeling throughout the entire song.
Yeah.
Unclear was written, I actually didn't have lyrics for that song up until we went to record it.
Oh yeah.
And then we had I couldn't find out what we were recording it on. The day we were in recording, it was my grandmother's anniversary of her passing.
Okay.
And she was somebody I adored from head to toe, absolutely. She was the one that raised me, and I had lost her a couple years ago, so I dedicated all the lyrics that I screamed to her. If anyone watches the video on YouTube, it's a lyric video, and it's just me screaming my heart out, hopefully reaching her.
Right.
In an attempt to just, in an attempt to ask, do you smile when you look down from heaven? I know that we'll meet again, but it'll be in a different time and place. Yeah. And that's just my little message to her.
Oh, that's beautiful, my man. Well, let's get to that track. I'll let you. How about you give it a little spin? You get to play DJ here, so you can tell the fine folks all about the band and the song.
All right. What's up, guys? This is Nate Hoya from LindaMar's. You're listening to our track Unclear. Hope you guys enjoy. This track holds a lot of emotion for me, and it's really coming from a place in my heart that I hope you guys absolutely love it. Enjoy.
Welcome back. You just heard a track called Unclear by a band out of California here, San Fran to be specific, LindaMar's. So I'm sitting down with Nate, the lead vocals. He's the scream that you hear in these tracks, and he's taking some time out of his busy-ass day by the sounds of things, man. You guys been grinding for the last little while. I guess that's all in upcoming for the big tour. Is that word on the street right now?
Yeah, so the last month we've spent every weekend at Rapture Recordings in Hayward, recording new material as well as perfecting our live sound. We have 10 shows coming up this month. Whoa. We have one next weekend, the weekend after that, and then 8 days back-to-back going from Cali to Nevada to Washington, Oregon, and then back to Cali. And we've just been grinding. Our strings all have blisters. All the vocalists are really pushing their boundaries, and it's funny because we're all writing and practicing and rehearsing, and I've been overloading my band members, but they've been handling it well. So
Yeah,
keeping
man.
that momentum.
Yeah, just that crap that whiff, right? That's crazy. That's awesome.
I told them when they joined, like, I'm gonna be on their asses, and I apologize ahead of time because I'm not gonna do it again.
Yeah. No, exactly, right. Well, and it's that balance point, right? I gotta, like, I've always taken the leadership role in any group I've been in, so I can completely relate. It's like you got to be, you're in or you're out, man. It's fuck yeah or no. It really is, right? Like, we want to make sure you got everybody on board, and we talked about that earlier. So it sounds like you got a great thing going. You touched on something too, with like the blisters and the grueling road schedule. And my biggest question for you, especially being Scream, how do you take care of the instrument, man? What's the technique? Have you taken formal training yourself, or can you talk to us a little bit about how does one do 10 shows in a month with that kind of vocal intensity?
You know, it's easier to do shows back to back than it is to take a break from one and then do another one. If you're gonna get into heavy screaming and to playing like this, you have to do it properly. I'm not doing it in a way that's really gonna damage my throat long term, and it's just like a muscle. If you want to think of it like it's very controlled in the same way that you can take a lot of air in your mouth and then blow out your birthday candles like it's a big gust of wind. I'm just doing it continuously. It's all that same force coming out of a really specific entryway.
Yeah.
I did take formal lessons on singing, which I did independently, and this guy taught me how to do warm-ups. He taught me what my range is. All other warm-ups I got off of YouTube, and this one woman called Melissa Cross has a video called the Zen of Screaming, where she teaches people how to scream properly or how to breathe properly.
Right.
And that is probably the most influential, most important thing you could learn when you're a performer on stage is just breath control.
Right.
Because there's times where I lose all my breath and I'm running around and I'm like swinging my head up and down and I'm just completely out of breath. And then I'll take off the mic and my voice will crack.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be like, how are you all doing tonight? It'll be terrible because I put so much strain on my voice.
Yeah.
I would lose my voice early on, especially in the middle of the set. Maybe 3-4 songs in, it starts getting rough. I start having to kind of yell instead of scream as much, and it was really hard on the throat. Honey, warm-ups, constantly warming up. I warm down, and I never whisper. I always speak at full volume or not at all.
Right. Cool. Wow. There you go. That's how you get into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of mechanics to it. People can't believe it's the sound coming out of me, especially since I'm adorable and short. Yeah, I'm only 5'5".
That's
so
awesome,
when I
man.
jump off the stage and I lose that 1.5 feet of elevation, they're like, "Wow, I didn't expect that to come out of you."
No kidding, man. No, and that's when you might have remembered when I first reached out. I was like, "What do you do?" Because I thought I saw you look like I watched the video. I was like, that can't be the dude. No way, right? Yeah. I'm like, holy, there's got to be, you got a doppelganger.
I had one person ask, like, what machine do you use to make that noise? And I'm like, what machine?
Yeah, I'm like, fucking, whoa. It's my voice, man. That's awesome, dude. Well, no, that goes to show, and for anybody who's watching, it goes to show that is your instrument, man. You got to keep in tune. And it kind of segues nicely.
Practice.
Exactly, right. Now, you talked about all those other kind of things that on keeping yourself in good space on that. What do you think is the hardest part of the actual lifestyle then?
Criticism.
Yeah.
I would say it's, if you're going to pursue this, you have to go in with the mentality that not everyone's going to like you. Even if you believe that you're the nicest human or you're supportive of everybody, doesn't mean everyone's going to support you from the get. Right. And some people just love to hate. So the hardest thing, especially in social media, social media gives a platform for anybody to give an opinion, regardless if it's good, bad, negative, positive. And we've had some people just say some mean ass stuff for no reason besides the fact that they're just in a terrible mood and kind of just want to get their rocks off. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And it hurts some people. It really does. I've seen some people really take that bad, and it really discourages people from moving forward. And there are times where you feel like I should quit. This is difficult. This is hard. I don't have any members. I don't have any funds. No one's listening to our music. Nobody wants to buy our stuff. We had a terrible show. And then you go online and then those same people are just like, F you.
Oh, it's crazy.
The dichotomy of it is that what helps me stay on it are the people that do love it.
Yeah.
And it's like the hardest part of it is just all the things you have to fight through and trudge through to get through.
Mm-hmm.
But what really keeps us around are the people who absolutely love and support us and think anything that we're doing is great, whether they listen to it or not. Just that encouragement is what moves us forward, and that feeling that you get when you get off stage and someone comes up to you and says, yo, that was absolutely amazing. I'm so glad I saw you guys.
Yeah.
That to me is worth every other ounce of pain that I've been through that week.
Yeah. It's like that one good thing. That's why it keeps you on that track of like, this is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm doing it, right? Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that so much. And it's nice to hear that too. And like, I hear a lot of groups that get to that certain level and they just stop reading the reviews because, I mean, you're always going to have hate. You're always going to have love. And it's up to you to decide what you pick. So
The bigger that we get, the less I'm going to read the YouTube comments.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because you got to know you're doing something right when people start hating, though. That's the science of it. Like,
one of the best advices I've ever gotten. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then the same people in the crowd were just like, no, that just means people don't like you. And I'm like, shut up.
I love
I'm at
it
with humor. I take everything as a joke, and I'm very lighthearted about things, so I don't let a whole lot get to me personally. But you know what? I just, again, if I don't stop doing this, it's going to continue growing. And that's the mindset I got to keep regardless of what anybody else thinks.
Exactly. Put those blinders up, right? I love it. I love the focus. Yeah. I love it, man. That's great. No, it's awesome, man. That's great. Now, last couple questions here before we round things out. Wanted to kind of get into a little bit of the other stuff, like the stuff that makes a band more the human side of things. So, like you mentioned you got a lot of different influences in the group. What would be your bucket list concert, or like build a band or build a lineup or something like that? One of those things, like with all these influences. Who are you dying to see?
Ooh, if LindaMar got to open for like a group of people.
Yeah.
I would. Let's see. I would love to open for, or I would love to be on a show like on the same stage as like one of my favorite bands right now is a Bay Area band called Spite, and we're working with their drummer, and they're totally not our genre, but if I was ever to play a stage with those guys, I'd be absolutely honored.
Yeah.
So Spite, I guess for metalcore, it would be people like I Prevail. They're one of the bands that are doing absolutely amazing right now. I'd love to share a stage with Wage War. There's one of the big influences right now, and they're absolutely killing the game. And somebody like a big classic, like a Day to Remember, or being like on a stage with like a Day to Remember, or Of Mice and Men, but Austin Carlisle left, so I don't know if that'd be
a little bit different, hey?
A little bit different. There's a lot of really great bands that have paved the way. Like the bands that got me into metalcore were like As I Lay Dying, Bullet for My Valentine, Avenged Sevenfold, and those guys are all currently giants. Yeah, no,
exactly.
In high school, those were the guys I wanted to like play and be with and act like and dress like. And those are right now. To answer your question correctly, I guess it'd be like Wage War, I Prevail, and A Day to Remember.
Awesome.
And then Spite, that'd be freaking awesome. That'd be my top 4.
There you go. Well, we'll get this YouTube going viral, and then I'm sure the guys they'll be like, oh yeah, let's get these guys on.
Gentlemen, let me hop on. I'll freaking massage all of you.
Exactly right. You guys need coffee? I got it. Right? Yeah. That's now what we're talking. That's great, man. And then diving in a little bit, it sounds like you got a pretty good team, and so much of it I've learned in my experience in groups. Comes down to like just being able to hang out and have beer or go and just literally hang out, watch the game with your buds, right? Because you spend so much time together, right? So question for you, you mentioned not really into the sports or anything. What do you guys do outside of that? Do you guys like have any kind of other outside interests?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm still a huge fan of music, so I try to go to any type of event that I can. So recently I went to go see Migos. Okay. So I was at I went to a rap concert. I'd go check out other bands. And we all have our, I guess, ideas of fun. I know Michael is, he's actually really looking forward to going to Washington because him and his girl had wanted to go to Washington. It's one place that they wanted to visit was Seattle. So that's his form of fun, is like traveling and playing.
Cool.
And when we're not practicing, we usually kind of meet up individually and kind of have like our own bonding experiences. Like I hang out with our drummer. I had one crazy night watching the movie It. And we went to, and then of course we have other bands in the area, and we all just meet up and just kind of like we just start interlacing members and just kind of having fun with everybody, and just social gatherings. We go to shows constantly. Yeah. We drink. Some of us smoke cannabis and do, have our fun. We go out. We had Halloween parties yesterday.
Nice.
For anybody watching the show, not just listening to it, I was Morty.
Nice, man. Beauty. There we go. That's awesome.
And that party was hosted by our guitarist Justine. There was like 100+ people there.
Oh man, crazy.
And we rage. Our vocalist, our singer, doesn't do anything. He's completely like stone sober. Yeah. And but just an absolutely fun guy to be around. And extremely talented. Like we all get along and do fun things outside. Nothing too crazy. I think I'm the craziest one out of all of them.
That's good.
When it comes to just going ham and going all out, but I always show up the next day on time. Like, all right, guys.
Yeah. That's important. Yeah. If you're gonna make those decisions, man, you gotta deliver on the other side of it too, right? And that's what sets people apart. So that's awesome. That's great to hear, man. Cool. Well, like I said, I really appreciate your time and sitting down and just to kind of finally wrap this little bit up. We got the last track here. It's Longest Mile. That was the one that you were mentioning you wanted to kind of focus in on. Now, give me a little background similar to the last one. What's this track all about?
So The Longest Mile is a project that Justine was working on prior to joining the band, and instead of having her release it as an independent, I said release it as a LindaMar's track. That way it has more of a platform to reach. And she ended up collabing with Jake, who, like I said, also has his own little side project of pop punk music, and so does Michael. He ends up having his another band that it's his own solo project called Social Complex. And when we went into studio, they all started working on this track, and it really came out to this really beautiful acoustic song that's really, I believe it's about getting over people in the past who they had trouble letting go of. And it really shows the spectrum of our sound, especially since we go from heavy music to super heavy music to then acoustics that we play in the middle of our sets. And it brings everyone super close together. And at the end of the acoustic track, we drop another heavy track, and everyone starts bouncing because it really brings us like all together. So it's a really, really beautiful track. I hope the listeners enjoy it. It's not as heavy as the first two, but it's starting to become one of my favorite things to listen to just on a daily. Just a real nice, peaceful track to listen.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to close out the show. So, I mean, I'll let you do the honors here, but again, thank you so much, Nate, for your time today. I'm really excited to see how November goes, and then we'll got to get you back on the show and see how things develop over the next few months too, because you guys got great sound, very polished, very different, and anything that we can do up here up north, you say the word, man. We got you covered up here.
I would love to do a Canada tour. I love you guys up north, and that is one of our dreams, is to play across the great country of Canada.
You say that now, but you don't know how fucking brutal that tour is. But I'll hold you to it, man. We'll get you here. You always got a home in Calgary, that's for sure. So we'll set you up. And how about you take the final track here, Longest Mile, for a spin?
Right on. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. This is this track, The Longest Mile by LindaMar's, sung by Justine Soledad and Jake Street. Hope you guys enjoy it.
So I'll walk it off, nothing in the space that I created to hold anything my mind was looking for. Between us and society and everything around, they're all wrong. to ourselves, we only find a wall. And inside the lies, behind the pain, we see the truth and all its hate, and where we went wrong.
And I'm holding on to something,
But I'm learning letting go of
and
you.
I'm holding on to something,
But I'm learning letting go of
and I'm
you.
holding on to something,
But I'm learning letting go of
and I'm
you.
holding on to something,
But I'm learning letting go of you.
and I'm holding on to something.